All right, welcome everybody to Dream Life Coach Training 2.0, interviews with the experts. And today, the expert that we'll be talking to is Maureen St. Germain. Maureen St. Germain is the author of the best-selling Beyond the Flower of Life book and Reweaving the Fabric of Your Reality. Maureen's book, Be a Genie, has been re-released with this update for audiences worldwide, leading workshops and guiding tours since 1994. Maureen St. Germain's focus is in personal development and spiritual awakening. She is insightful, compassionate, intuitive, and very funny. Maureen's vocation is to share the knowledge she's gained from many years of studying ancient wisdom. Be a Genie is her distillation of this information into a formula for creating your destiny. Her first presentation of this workshop was in 1995 to a standing room only audience at a National Association meeting. This encouraged her to begin a new career as a workshop facilitator. Since that time, Maureen has expanded her workshop offerings to include Merkaba Classic, Reweaving the Fabric of Your Reality, Be a Genie, and Akashic Records workshops. These high-caliber seminars assist the participant on his or her path of self-discovery. She's also the author, writer, voice, and musical composer of over 15 best-selling meditation CDs, such as the Merkaba 2 and the 2-CD set, Sounds from the Great Pyramid, recorded live in the Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. Maureen continues to create new CDs as her work expands. She's also the author of the best-selling Merkaba Classic DVD set. Maureen is the mother of 4 adult sons and is the former nonprofit CEO, fundraiser, and lobbyist. She's made several successful career changes in her life. She's been a talk show host on local TV and now leads workshops throughout the world, as well as Akashic Records International and a number of other organizations. Maureen considers herself a facilitator rather than a teacher in helping you to remember what you already know. This is what Maureen says. My mission is to assist you in becoming the highest you can be in any given moment. I intend to be an inspiration to all with whom I come in contact and to give you, my co-workers on this planet, a lifetime sense of self, along with a passion and compassion for all of life. So Maureen St. Germain, welcome to Dream Life Coach Training 2.0, interviews with the experts.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here and to help you do your work.
Great. So as I was telling you earlier, I've invited you on because I see you as one of those people on the planet who has crafted her unique career, not following a prescribed path, but finding your own way through the jungle of life and finding your way in a really unique and truly inspirational way that makes a difference in people's lives. And you've made a living doing this, and you're quite successful. I met you at the Book Expo in New York years ago, and you literally stood out. There was a glow about you, and I knew I had to get to know this woman. And I've read your books and had the privilege of interviewing you, and I thought you'd make a great kind of expert role model for the coaches that have come through Dream Life Coach Training, these people who are looking to create a successful career for themselves. And it's great to glean from other people who have done something similar and yet have their own unique way of doing that. So let's start first of all with let's see. Let's dive into the Genie work. I love the Genie aspect. Let's talk about the movies that you make and how you came to the work that is culminated in your book, Be a Genie. Let's start there.
Okay, so it starts with a mom mission in my case. I have always been attracted to manifestation and began collecting information on how I was manifesting from my early 20s. And I will never forget, as a young newlywed, I got a wonderful job. I manifested a wonderful job as the apartment manager, and I also would do pickup jobs where we would paint an empty apartment. and make an extra $100. And I remember distinctly wanting to manifest $100 for something very specific that I needed. We were very low income in terms of the money we had, and I knew that I could pick up another painting job. I just had to wait for that, phone call. Mm-hmm. And I kept seeing myself with that extra $100 that would allow me to do this thing that I needed to do. And the $100 came, but not through a painting job. Mm. And that was the first time I realized, and this goes back probably to the mid-'70s, that I realized that you could manifest something without knowing how. Mm-hmm. And so I understood very clearly that I was focusing on my outcome, which was the thing I needed to do with that money. Mm-hmm. And the money came in very easily, even easier than if I had to do the painting job.
Nice.
And that really stuck with me. In the early 70s, nobody was talking about manifestation. Mm-hmm. And so as my family grew and the situation changed, the next big, really pivotal event was much more substantial, where my number 2 son was accepted in I'll call it an almost Ivy League school, George Washington University. Mm-hmm. And the tuition for that school back then was over $30,000 a semester, a year. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it, but when he got accepted, the parental portion was $10,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And I was coming out of a divorce where my former husband had filed bankruptcy before we were divorced, and that meant I either had to file bankruptcy or I could pay his debt. Now, most people would just file bankruptcy and call it a day, but I knew I was going to teach manifestation, and I didn't want to. And I also felt what a great way to have credentials to prove that it is possible to manifest your way out of it. So I paid off his debt and marched forward, and I never did it in an angry way. I did it in a, these are my credentials. I'm going to prove that it can be done, and no sweat on me. And it took me a number of years to pay it off, but in the meantime, I did have the money to send my son to school, and it was all over and above my regular income, because my regular income was basically putting me in the hole, $100 a month. With the debt load I had and the house payment and the car payment, I was going under about $100 a month and on a regular basis. So I was doing pickup jobs and pickup opportunities that were coming my way right and left. And the way I did it is I created a movie, and I call it the Genie movie, or the movie of the mind. And in this movie, I saw
a mind movie.
A mind movie.
Okay.
So I created this mind movie. And in the mind movie, I saw myself with 2 issues. Now, one of the things that I had figured out is that what you resist persists. So if you're in a really difficult hardship situation, you cannot resist that. You cannot deny it, because every cell of your being is like, how am I going to get enough money to cover the rent? Or how am I going to get enough money to buy groceries this week? So, that's front and center. It's like when you're sick, all you can think about is, what do I do to get better? So when you're in a harsh financial strain, you cannot deny the situation that you're in. So that's the first step. And by allowing that to be okay, that's real, and then to accept that you could also have another version of the reality that you're co-creating at the same time, this eliminates the resistance factor. So it's like having a TV that does more than one station at a time. You put on one station and then you put on the other, and they both run at the same time. You might make one picture smaller temporarily, but then you know that they're still both going on. So you've got the football game and the movie at the same time. Now, in my case, going back to my manifestation, I knew that I needed to come up with a certain amount of money. Now, that first semester was really nuts and very, very challenging. And I recognized that it was a lot of work, a lot more work than I wanted to do. So at the end of that first semester of coming up with $5,000, my first semester payment, I thought to myself, there is no way I want to do this again. So what did I really want? I wanted the full $40,000. And what did that look like? Well, I was pretty savvy when it comes to money. But I also, what's the word I want? I'd been a CEO and run nonprofits and had, millions of dollars in my annual budget that I ran.
Mm-hmm.
I was still terrified to think of $40,000 in my personal checking account because I'd never had that much money.
Mm.
And so I was so afraid I would fail that I couldn't imagine what that would look like. So sometimes you cannot use the dollar amount. You can't use the dollar amount that you're seeking, because what happens is your body shuts down. And thank you so much for your doggy emphasis, because that's really, really important. Don't focus on the dollars. Focus on what the dollars will do. And so I had to come up with a picture that represented what that would look like. And the picture of what that would look like was me standing in front of my son at his graduation. And that graduation was so scary to me that I couldn't do it. So I took a photograph from his high school cap and gown picture, and I spoke to the photograph like you'd talk to a picture. And in that scenario, I said these two things. There were some scary moments, but it wasn't that hard. And that's all I did to make it happen. Now, what's so profound is opportunities would present themselves, and I would take it. It's like someone coming by and saying, need a lift? And you're deciding, is this guy going to be safe? Is this a sincere offer? Do I take it or leave it? Now, if you're super independent, you're going to say, no, I don't need a lift. And you miss an opportunity. So, I had people approach me at events and say, could you do this for me? And I would do a project for them. Or I had somebody approach me and ask if I would help them organize a overseas trip, which I had lots of experience with. And I said, okay. And I made a big chunk of change on that. So opportunities presented themselves. I still had to work, but I didn't have to come up with the ideas. The ideas came to me. Kind of like when we set our computer to pull our favorite radio show and put it on our laptop, or we set our alarm to go off at a certain time. You put it on automatic, and it comes to you. So the movie of the mind consists of three elements. The first element is you giving yourself permission to have this current situation and being, quote, okay that I don't have. Not to whine and say, oh, I don't have, like if you want to have children, oh, I don't have any children. I can't imagine going through life without having any children. Instead, say, you know what, this is where I'm at. This is what I got. It's not my favorite choice, but it definitely is a choice. And if I have to go through life this way, it's okay. So you're present.
So the first step is accepting whatever the challenge is, because most people don't think about manifesting unless they're in some sort of pain about whatever their present circumstances are, like you were saying, not the stress of the money.
Well, people who are just starting, but again, I'm not so sure it's the accepting the challenge, because accepting the challenge still sees it as resistance. You're labeling it as a challenge means you're resistant about it. It's not a challenge if it's a piece of cake. Think of something you do well. Let's say you are good at dream interpretation. If I say to you, I've got 50 clients, I need you to step in and evaluate these 50 dreams. I've got them all written out, and I need it back in 24 hours. Is that a challenge for you, or is that a piece of cake?
It depends on how elaborate you want the interpretation to be.
Right, but you get my drift. You see that it's relatively doable because you already have the skill set. So you have to look at whatever it is that's going on in your life and say, if nothing changes, could I still live my life? Would I still be okay? And the answer has to be yes.
Okay.
It's not what you want. You have to be clear. There's a difference between acceptance and seeing it as a challenge. Because if you see it as a challenge, you may still be in resistance. And that's really, really important.
Okay, so step one is acceptance.
Step one is acceptance of the status quo. Exactly so.
Okay. Acceptance of what is, what's so, and the status quo of whatever that is. Okay.
And then step two is to look at what you really want and allow yourself to, get clear about what is it that you really want. And in my case, I initially was trying to manifest $5,000 every 6 months to cover the tuition. And after the first semester, I realized, oh, my God, I do not want to do it this way again. This is too hard. I want to manifest the whole thing.
Right.
So sometimes your goals are too small.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we had this conversation when we did your dream and your outcome, because you were focused on the how instead of the big outcome. How are you helping people?
Right.
And so that's very, very important to your coaching clients. Focus on what it is you came here to do. Mm-hmm. What is it that you came here to do, and what is it that you think will allow you to do it? So, maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's reaching out and having a steady group of clients. And, oh, by the way, I'm gonna be able to take care of myself along the way, because the universe doesn't expect you to, do for everybody else without getting for yourself as well. Mm-hmm. Nobody expects a banker to loan money without getting a percentage.
Right.
So why wouldn't we benefit from the work of helping others? Mm-hmm. So we're clear about that. So getting clear about the status quo, and then getting clear about your heart's desire. And the heart's desire can shift and change. One of the easiest ways that I explain the heart's desire is to talk about the beloved. Most people want to be with a beloved.
Okay.
And if you want to be with a beloved, this is a very funny story. I actually taught this to a young man, probably age 14, and we were having dinner. His parents were hosting me. We were teaching this class, and the mom said to me, Maureen, would you tell my son how to manifest, like you were teaching a class today? Now, of course, this mom has an agenda. She's obvious. And so I give the short version, and I get to the part where I say, so if you're with your beloved and you've gotten married, what is proof that you married the partner of your dreams? And you know what he said?
What?
You get divorced. Because his parents were arguing so fiercely all the time that he knew it was only a matter of time before they split up. Even though he could see that his parents were beautifully mated, they were at a place where they couldn't unhook from certain behaviors that they were both doing to each other. Now, what this also says is there is more than one outcome if you meet your beloved and get married. And it acknowledges that. Now, that's a very big aha. As you say, ouch, that's great. Mm-hmm. And what it also says is qualify what happens next. So it isn't just that you are with the partner of your dreams. If you go beyond that, you're going to celebrate an anniversary. And if you're celebrating an anniversary, it's proof that you're happy.
Right.
Because when you're not happy, couples do not celebrate their anniversary.
Right.
So the celebration is key to the movie. And I tell people, pick, if you can, a celebratory event that proves you achieved this thing. Mm-hmm. Now, what that might look like is the wedding, but far better to pick something that's beyond it enough that you got past all the stuff that happens to people right before, during, and right after a marriage.
Right.
And you're so far past that you're happy. And I'll use the word settled in, not necessarily settled.
Yes, settled in
enough to be happy and loving and want to have a celebration. And you don't have to, it doesn't even have to be about marriage. It could just be about I'm with my beloved. So then that celebration becomes that celebration becomes the realization that I'm in this partnership and that we're together. Maybe it's the celebration of when we moved in together. Maybe it's the celebration of when we first met. But it doesn't matter. The celebration is the key because it means we're happy and that we've achieved this level of contentment.
That's great. That's very, very specific and so important. So many people pick a goal and they pick the pinnacle moment, and it's, kind of stressful and kind of euphoric, but at the same time they haven't normalized it or gotten comfortable with it. And if we're not comfortable with it, then we just might need to sabotage it because it's overwhelming, and overwhelming feels like too much. So anything that's too much, we push away. Okay, this is great. So step 3 would be
now wait just a minute. I want to stay with you for this for a second. Mm-hmm. So as you've described it very well, one of the things that you are beginning to realize is that when you do manifestation the old way, as you have compared this to, mm-hmm. and you go to that heart's desire, I call it the wall. And what happens is you get to the edge of this big thing that makes you so excited and happy, and you look at it like a little kid looks at a castle. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're looking at it over the wall. Mm-hmm. You don't know how you're going to get past the wall, so you stop. The way we do it, because we've taken you way beyond that wall, you're already living in the castle. You don't know how you got in. Doesn't matter how you got in the castle. What matters is that you're in, and you're living, and you're happy. And how you got there, the universe takes care of.
Right.
So it completely bypasses the normal, I'll call it masculine type energy of how do we get from point A to point B, and moves the discussion to point C. How the heck did we get here? Mm-hmm. Isn't this cool? We are so happy. I am so happy. And you might not even know all the cool things that happened that put you there. You just know it did. This is a very, very important piece. I'm so happy that we're doing this. And as everyone's listening, I want you to be thinking. You can be thinking about any specific thing you want, obviously, but I know that the intent of these calls is for this to give you some rocket fuel for your career as a Dream Life coach, or however you're integrating that into your life. So you might be thinking of, where would I be in this formula if I was, where am I at now, where do I want to be, and then go beyond where you want to be into a place of normalcy, a place of settled-inness, and a celebration regarding the settled-inness of this next phase. So something like that. Maybe we'll call on one or two of you to do this process with Maureen. But let's get all the steps first. How many steps are there altogether, by the way? Well, the final step is coming up.
Okay, great.
And that is a real-time conversation.
So a real-time conversation.
In your movie, you have to have a conversation with someone who is likely to be there at the time. And you hear yourself speak, you hear them speak, and you hear what they say, and you hear what you say. Now, I have a real fun story to tell you on how to really make that clear and understandable. I was teaching a class, and I had a big group like the one you described, and a man stood up and said, I want to do this, and he wanted to work for the Miami Dolphins. And I said, well, who are you going to have this conversation with? And he said, my mother. And I said, is it going to be on the phone or in person? He said, no, it'll be on the phone. And I said, okay, I'll be your mother, you be you. Hi, son, how you doing? And he said, he didn't say anything. There was silence. And because I'm so tuned in, I knew exactly what was going on. So I said, so what's the problem? And he said, well, you're recording it. And I said, okay, well, clean up your language and say it that way. He said, okay, Mom, I'm working for the effing Dolphins. And so I said, great. And what does your mom say? She says, no effing way. And I said, does your mother talk like that? And he said, yes. And I said, in that case, your movie is right for you.
Perfect.
It is perfect. And it tells us so much because the movie of his mom speaking that way is so accurate and so atypical that he can feel his body shift when he hears his mother say, no effing way. It's so much fun. So, go back to the movie that we made with you, for example, and this is, I think, about your TV show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I did this process with Maureen a few weeks ago, and we did it regarding the Dreamweaver television show.
So if you are already successfully doing your show, and you have a conversation with somebody who's likely to be there, or could be somebody you haven't talked to in a while that doesn't know how far along you've come.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, but you hear that person that you know and love and cherish, and you hear them say, oh, my God, Kelly, way to go. How did you pull that off? That might be a little easier for you than your spouse who's right in the middle of it all.
That's true.
Might be somebody that's close to you that you haven't heard from in a while. We all have friends like that every time we see or talk to them, we pick up right where we left off. No harm, no foul about the fact that we haven't stayed in touch. And it's just, we connect and we have this lovely conversation of mutual love and support. And so maybe that's the conversation you have. But you have to have somebody that is important to you that fits that description. And it might even be an unknown person to you at this moment, but you still hear yourself having a conversation with somebody that's important, treasured, and loved by you, saying something remarkable to you that shows not only their astonishment but their pleasure at your success.
Can I say what just came into my mind?
Please.
I co-facilitated a retreat this last weekend, and we all came up with a personal mantra, and it represented kind of the antidote to whatever we were struggling with. And my mantra was, in my fragileness, God shines through me. And it feels so big to me. And I'm imagining the woman, Michelle, that I co-facilitated the retreat with, me getting back to her and saying that, when her saying, how did the show come to be? How did you land this? And me saying, in my fragile places, God shines through me. So I did my part, but the places that I couldn't, my fragile places, the places that I couldn't control or couldn't do anything, that was where God did the work. So it feels like it's an answer to a question that very much would relate to how this something so wonderful could manifest.
And then you might hear her say, okay, I think that's fabulous, and I think it's such a cool thing that's how you manifested it, but I want to know the gory details. She might actually say something like that, and then you would laugh, and you would pretend that you could tell her. And you don't have to know the content. You can just pretend I'm telling her. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I'm picturing it being at a retreat. I'm picturing it being, again, like at me leading at this retreat and sharing with the women that had been there before and going into more of the details as a teaching. That would feel like a really empowering way to share about this, because I know there will be more details that will come.
So do you want to take a question?
Should we, you mean bring in, let's see, somebody to do this process with you?
Yes,
is that what you mean?
That would be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
because we still want to take time, I know, for this.
Let's do both Jordan and Debbie. So we have the male and female. Who would like to go first? Whoever's voice I hear first will get to go next.
All right, well, I picked Jordan.
Okay, Jordan, that's it. You're on.
Not planning
Unmute yourself,
so
Jordan.
We're going to catch you by surprise. I think that element of surprise.
Okay, I'm here.
All right. So, Jordan, what I need you to do is to think about something that you've always wanted or always wanted to do. It can be tangible or intangible. Something that you have yet to achieve in your life, something you've yet to own in your life, whatever it is. Pick something. Do you need a moment?
Yeah, I need a moment for that.
Okay. And you can think about it.
You've got 5 seconds. Come on. This is important and very useful because thinking on the fly is a very good technique. So there's plenty of things on your wish list, I'm sure, in life. Are you happily married?
Do you
want to
Quasi.
Okay. So maybe, are you happy in your work?
Yeah.
And what would you change? What would you like to be different?
If you had a genie that was sitting right in front of you and said, "My wish is your command," you can have something that doesn't already exist in your life. You can have it, but you got to say what it is. Why don't we do just so that you can...
More influence, I think.
More influence. So you want to be more respected, so that your words mean something to people.
Yeah, have more impact. In other words, I feel like I've got a lot of ideas I've developed, but they're essentially not having much impact anywhere.
So let's fast forward in time, and you're now in a place where people come to you and say, "I want to run this by you and see what you think. I need your input."
Mm-hmm.
People of value, people, highly respected people.
Can I butt in for a second?
Nope.
Okay.
Just for a few seconds, he's got to play with me, because sometimes the person who wants to butt in already has the answer, and I don't want that. I want to force him to like struggle a little bit,
good.
because it makes them realize the wall, and that's what we talked about already.
Great.
He's been listening as a technician, but he hasn't been listening as a player, so now he gets to play.
Yeah.
So see yourself in that place where people are coming to you on a regular basis and saying, "Look, I want to run this by you. I need your help. I want to know what you think I should do or how I can do this." And because you're an idea man and you know things, it feels good to be asked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to think of a scenario that's either like that or the same as that. What would it look like to you if you were a person of influence? Would it look like that, or would it look like something else?
Well, it would to some extent, and probably asked to express opinions on... I'm not sure how it would manifest. Other written things, blogs, spoken things.
Okay.
Really.
So followers and things like that.
He's an excellent writer. He's an excellent orator as well, except when he's put on the spot and has to talk about what he wants.
Yeah, but see, this is going to help you with all the other stuff that you know. So here you are, a man who knows a lot about a lot of things, but without a clear definition of what that might look like. So now I want you to go even further into the future, and you have a successful blog, you have successful email lists or whatever you do, newsletters. You have people calling you and asking you for advice on how to do such and such. Pick one thing that feels like the epitome of all of those. What would it be? And pick it in the distant future that you're already doing it and already highly regarded.
Well, I would say probably having people talk about things that I might be able to have, I don't know if advice is the right word, but at least some insight into.
Okay. So right now I want you to go into what we call a mental movie of the mind and focus on, you've had plenty of experiences where people don't even listen to your suggestions or don't even ask for your suggestions. So you know what it's like to face rejection. So you're kind of focused on that. That's your current status quo. So now instead of resisting that and being annoyed that people don't even ask, if they'd ask, you'd save them, 20 hours and $200. Instead, they go the long way or the hard way because they haven't asked you because they don't think to ask you. So that's your status quo. And decide that, if that's how the rest of my life is, it's okay. It's not my preferred way to live, but it's okay. It's doable. And let go of all your resistance, your annoyance and anger at people for not noticing that you could help them. Let go of all of that. And now go to the distant future where somebody of very high regard, somebody that you would look up to. You don't even have to know who that person is. It could just be a well-known personality who comes to you and says, "I have to have you help me." I know you're the man who can help me figure this out and get the solution and handle the details. But it's somebody that you know is highly regarded, not only by you, but by many. And the very fact that that person is contacting you out of the blue means that your blog is big, your presence is big on the internet, and people get it, that you're an authority. So pretend that it's somebody of high regard, and imagine this person calls you on the phone. And how do you feel when you realize it's Robert Redford or somebody really high up and says, look, I heard about you, I've been reading your blog, I want to run something by you. Have you got time? What's your first reaction?
It's expansive and it's a little scary.
Okay, but stay with it. You don't have to worry about how. Just, pick somebody that's of the caliber that you're looking at, really high up, and they call you, and that you have that conversation. And the minute they call you, you realize, oh, my God, so-and-so's calling me? Awesome. And you're ready to step up. Do you see what I mean? You're already past all that stuff of how you got there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You got it. Excellent. All right, now, go one step beyond that. Now tell somebody that's a good friend of yours, somebody who knows what you do, and somebody who gets it, who you are, but he knows that not too many other people do get it. And see yourself having a conversation with that person and say, yeah, very highly regarded individual. I can't give you his name because, it's a private confidential call, but I know I'm somewhere because he found me. And hear yourself say something like that. And then hear what your buddy would say. Yeah, you got it. You shifted. So that's all you have to do. And what you do is you do two things. You look at your status quo, your life right now, and you go, you know what? Some days it sucks, but you know what? It's okay. I'm doing pretty good. I'm making a decent life, and it's okay. But over here, I got this. And you run that movie. And you don't let the down stuff hold you back from running the movie. And you mentally run that movie 30 or 40 times a day. And what happens is that imaginary conversation that you have with your friend anchors that energy, and then stuff moves to you. You get inspired. You have to show up. But it's not like you have to make it happen. It comes to you. It's like this. If you're really good at sweeping and somebody drops something in front of you, I can sweep that up. I've got my broom right here. You can do that. But if you have to go find the dirt and sweep it, where do you start? Cool, huh?
Yeah.
So what would they say to you? What would you say to them? And what should we get?
You're dropping out, Kelly.
Oh. Should he get specific about what he says to the person and what they say to him?
Yeah, he is doing that now. I could tell by the way he was responding to me that he was there. He doesn't want to share it here, and that's okay. He's a very private person. But he knows that he has to have that conversation with a friend. He might have to have that imaginary conversation with somebody important. And I would recommend, Jordan, that you not focus on a particular person, but somebody who is like that person, So if you were in the movie business, for example, maybe you would pick out Robert Redford because of Sundance. But it doesn't matter. You pick out somebody who's like that, and then you let go of that person's identity, but you keep their status and stature. Somebody of that caliber called me, and you see yourself telling your friend, and it's kind of a fun tongue-in-cheek. I really can't tell you because it's, highly confidential, and this guy's so well-known, he doesn't want people to know he called me, but blah, blah, blah. And hear your friend say whatever your friend would say. Cool beans, or that is so amazing. Whatever they would say.
That's amazing. How does that feel, Jordan?
It feels good, and it makes me confront issues of responsibility. I think that's what comes up when I start seeing myself manifesting in that way. I guess I've always been more in the shadows person, and I can remember that I had to evolve in commands, and it was very difficult for me to tell other people what to do. I mean, that was very difficult, but in sailing and some of the other things, military and whatever, you realize that it's really important that people have clear commands that are precise and at the right time, and that's an important part of all those activities. And so I was able to develop the ability to do that. And when I look at this, I find the issue of responsibility. If you're influential, you're really affecting people's lives and changing them in a direction, and that entails looking at it and saying, "Oh, I'm responsible for what that person did in a way as a result of following my impact or direction or influence." And that's a little scary, I think, in some sense.
Be very careful that you don't overemphasize that, because you are not responsible for what other people do. Mm-hmm. You're responsible for what you do. And if you give good advice and you share what you believe in with all your heart, you are not at fault if someone listens to you and only does half of what you tell them. And when people make mistakes or when people get hurt, it's because they only took the advice halfway, not because they didn't listen, that you gave bad advice. So when you look at the responsibility, remember that this is a form of false humility. Because if you are good at what you do, whether it's sailing or any other avenue, if you're really good at it, you're not going to give bad advice. So you don't have to worry about the responsibility issue, because that responsibility issue is false humility, somebody trying to make you scared to share what you know. So it's good that you brought it up, because what's useful is to realize that if you're, if there is a reason that you're not doing something well, then of course you want someone to stop you and say, "Hey, that's not right." Just like, if you're an author or a writer like I am, I want people to proof my stuff. I want my friends to look at the, next to final draft or something and say, it says this. Is that what you really meant? It means this to me. What did you really mean? And that's useful, because then I can clarify that if I want to. Mm-hmm. So you have those opportunities to get clarity. If you write a blog is not supposed to be perfect. A blog is supposed to be, off the cuff. Well, this is what I'm thinking about today. And what happens with the blog is people write back and they say, "Yeah, but what about this and what about that?" And then you get to give clarity about that. Mm-hmm. So try to understand that some of what you just said is someone teaching you about a form of humility that isn't real. It's a way to control you and to keep you from expressing who you really are.
This is really, really wonderful, and I think it's a great tool, this whole Genie formula for our individual selves, as well as a tool that with permission from Maureen, if we give permission and say we learned this from Maureen St. Germain, we could share with our clients. Do we have permission to spread the word about you, Maureen?
Absolutely. You have my permission, and just say where you got it. Maureen St. Germain and Be a Genie, and all the materials I have out there on this work.
Great. So let's get Debbie on the line if you're available, Debbie, and if you've got something that you'd like to create a movie on. Are you open to doing another one of these? We'll kind of do a quicker version so that we can also see if we can get time for the divinity test. But Debbie, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, great.
It took a while to get unmuted.
Okay. So
tell me
Maureen, take it away.
Tell me what your heart's desire is.
Okay, well, my heart's desire is to really have a successful coaching practice, to have a steady stream of clients, and to be able to be doing this on a regular, ongoing basis.
And why do you think that you're not there yet?
Well, I'm not there yet because I haven't marketed myself, and I'm in the process of getting ready to do that. But that is a kind of scary process for me because this is probably like a third career for me, and I've really never marketed myself before. So it's
right. Now, when you re-listen to this recording, I want you to notice the first thing that happened. When you first spoke, you were like out there and a little bit edgy. And then when I asked you to give me the introspective answer, why do you think you're not there yet? Your voice softened and your heart opened. And that's your number one quality that you bring to coaching. So you don't have to be out there and harsh and aggressive to be marketing. You have to have exposure, and that's different from, pushing yourself out there. And I want you to notice your voice, because your voice shifted. And voice is so important, especially when you're coaching other people and they are working with you. Okay, so now let's fast forward. You're already a successful coach, and you're helping people, and you're making a difference. Now just sit with that for a minute. You're already successful. You're already successful. And you've had 2 good careers, and now you have the good fortune of having a third career that not only is fun, but ties together some of the things you learned in your other 2 careers. And how cool that feels. And you have freedom with your time. You have a decent income, so you don't have to worry about money. So I want you to imagine a real-time conversation with someone that proves you're already a successful coach. Who would it be with?
I think I'd be having this conversation with Kelly.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yay! I can rehearse this with you, Debbie.
Yes. Well, because I would be checking in and just reflecting on how far I've come and how I.
First person. Stay in that moment in the future.
Oh, I mean, I'm literally having this conversation now, or I'm just. Or I'm saying that.
If you're saying it to Debbie right now, it's already a done deal. You're already, way past, your first 5 coaching clients, and there are lots of people waiting to work with you, and it feels really good. What are you going to say to Kelly, and and you just let her be herself then if you want, and you guys role play for a minute. I'll jump in if I catch you. So, and it's fun because I probably will. This is, at this point we're in acting class now. So, what do you say?
Well, let's see. I'd say I'm just having the time of my life doing this. I love what I'm doing. I love that I'm being able to be useful and help people, and I'm getting so much out of it in return, and I just love it. And Kelly, I thank you for teaching me and getting me out here and really exposing me to all of these great things that I've gotten to learn, and now I can share that wisdom with others, and I just love that.
And I would say I am so proud of you, and I always knew you could do it. I could say a lot more things, but I want you to be able to remember the script so you can rehearse it, this movie. I'm so proud of you, and I always knew you could do it.
Okay, so now, Debbie, I want you to say it again like you mean it. This was a little bit more about you looking through the looking glass. It didn't feel like you were in your body saying it. So say it in the present tense. This is acting class. Say it like you mean it. Do it again.
Well, I just feel really...
No.
You
would never say, I just anything, because it would no longer be just. You would say, Kelly, I am so happy. I'm happier than I ever thought I could be. The coaching business has taken off. Everything's fallen into place. And I can't thank you enough. Hear that?
Yes. Okay, I have to say that now. So,
right.
I want to say, because I want to feel that. and feel me feeling that. I'm just so happy. I can't believe how happy I am.
Take the word "just" out of that paragraph. Do it again.
Okay, I'm really happy.
Say it again. You're not saying it like you mean it. I'm really happy. No, you're forcing it out. Take a moment. Now, this is something very powerful that you will gain as a student and all the students who listen to this later. Take a moment and think about some big success you had in one of your other careers. And it doesn't matter what it is. You don't even have to tell me. Just think about something that you worked hard at and it worked out and you got to feel successful in that moment. Think about what that was. Whether it was a kid's birthday party, whether it was some big thing you did for some boss you had, doesn't matter. Just take a moment and think about and pick that event and just stay with it in your mind's eye for a moment. Now, jump and have that conversation with Kelly. Stay in that zone of being really successful and now tell her how happy you are.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow. You know, I feel it, but I'm not feeling it.
It's okay. You're doing great because I can feel you're shifting. So you practice a bunch of times. And here's what I call this. It's called replicating from favorable states. And I'll give you a quick story about a woman who wanted to have a perfect bar mitzvah for her son. And this is 3 years hence. And she keeps going over the scenario, and she's so scared. She doesn't know that many people. Her husband goes to a different synagogue than she does, and it's just a little nuts for her. And so we went back in time so we could find a favorable event that she had successfully managed. And we had to go all the way back to her wedding, of all things. And how was your wedding? It was perfect. What about your dress? Awesome. The cake, perfect. The band, oh, they were wonderful. How many people came? Oh, everybody came. Everything about the wedding was absolutely in heaven. So I said, okay, now it's the day after the wedding. How do you feel? And she said, oh, my God, the glow is so awesome. It was the best wedding I could have ever planned, and everything worked out perfectly. It was just wonderful. And then I said, and now it's the day after your son's bar mitzvah. And then she could do it. So that's what you do. You go back to some really successful thing that you've already done in your life that you know you could do again if somebody asked you to.
What's a successful event that you've done, Debbie? You've done many.
Well, I was thinking when, you said this, I was thinking about when my first book came out, and I was holding the actual finished book in my hands and just thinking how terrific that was. I was like, wow, it's done. It's actually here. It's a real thing. It's real. It exists.
Okay, so do that.
Yeah.
Use that as your stepping stone.
Okay, well, it's I'm dusting again. I felt it. That time I caught myself.
It's okay. This is why we have these tools.
Yeah.
So that you take a few minutes and you go back into that and how that felt, and then you immediately drop into, okay, now I'm having my conversation about the coaching business and how well that went. You see? It's all in past tense.
Mm-hmm. But when I'm talking in the present tense, no?
In the present tense, but it's all about the past in the future. It's a little confusing. So imagine 3 boxes in front of you. The box on the left is your current status quo. The box in the middle is your heart's desire. The box on the right is you've already achieved that, and you're so good at it, and it's a done deal. And that's where you're standing in the third box, talking about the second box.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm so happy. This is great. This is really great.
Yeah, and that may be all you need to say. And then you would hear Kelly come on the line and say, "Oh my God, you're there." Because she might not give you the pitch she just gave you now. She might be in that zone instead of being the coach in the moment. She's the friend in the moment, and she's honoring and recognizing, "Oh my God, you have arrived. I am so freaking proud of you." Might say it differently than she does in the coaching model.
No, yes. That's exactly how I would say it.
Yes.
I'm so freaking proud of you. Let's have some champagne. Let's dance. Let's hula hoop, Debbie. Come over and bring your hoop. So proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
End of scene.
That's it.
Very cool.
Yes.
Wow. Well, I think this is so powerful.
Going to practice this.
So Maureen, here's the other piece. You said, and I don't think I heard you say this. You probably said it, but I didn't hear you. You said to practice this 30 to 40 times a day?
Yes. Every time it comes up in your brain. Every time you think, "Oh, man, I don't have, blah, blah, blah." When you don't have money, you're thinking about how much you don't have money. You're thinking about not having money a lot.
So this is overriding.
An electric bill or covering the kids' school something or whatever it is. And when you're trying to do something, when you're in that trying mode, you're thinking about what you don't have, because the try mode is about what you don't have.
So this is truly creating an override, having this become more habitual of a thought than whatever the other status quo thought used to be.
Exactly.
That's what it seems like. Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate what I heard you say, that you first create an acceptance of the status quo, so you're not fighting against it. It's not great, but you at least accept it. Hey, if this is it, that's okay. You're not fighting against it. Number 2 is to identify what you really want, your heart's desire. And number 3 is to create the movie of a celebratory event that happens after, once you're settled in to the fulfillment, the reality of that desired outcome. You're settled in, and yet it's a celebratory moment. And then the 4th thing is you create a real-time conversation with somebody who is likely to be there with you. You envision or imagine and hear what you say and what they say. And you do that 30 to 40 times a day. And kablam, watch what happens. You be your own genie, kind of like the title of your book, Maureen St. Germain. And I know we're right at the edge of the hour, and I teased a little bit that we would talk about the divinity test, but maybe we'll have to have you back if you'd be so kind and gracious, and maybe we can focus on that and maybe take this to the next level. Would that be a possibility?
Of course.
That would be amazing. And I want everyone to know that Maureen's website is her name. It's MaureenSt.Germain.com. That's Maureen, MaureenSt, Germain, Germain.com. She's got all kinds of wonderful tools on her website. It's a beautiful website with all kinds of information about her CDs, her meditations, her workshops, her events, her sacred journeys, her Akashic readings, personal consultations, news you can use, and it's just chock full. So that's Maureen St. Germain. Take a peek, and we'll post this on the Dream Life Coach Training website, and I can't tell you how wonderful this is. I think this is one of the best tools that we could have up our sleeves as Dream Life coaches. I mean, Dream Life, we're here to not just support other people in living their dream lives, but to be an example of that ourselves. And what a perfect tool to help us truly manifest or manifest that for ourselves, and to be able to replicate that and give that away to others with acknowledgement, obviously, in every case, to Maureen St. Germain. Any final pearl of wisdom that you'd like to impart to us before we take off and complete this interview?
Yes.
And between now and the next time?
The biggest message I'd like to give people is get out of the way of how and focus all of your energy on staying in the moment and being okay with the present and staying in the moment of your future, which proves that it already occurred.
Very, very powerful, great words of wisdom. We will take this and go forth and multiply the wisdom, and may it all come back to you a millionfold, Maureen St. Germain. May you be also uplifted beyond the beyonds as a result of this amazing generosity, and may everybody who's listening also go forth and multiply the blessings in your life. Pay it forward, so as we are lifted, all are lifted. And so it is. Until we meet again on Dream Life Coach Training 2.0, interviews with the experts, may all your wildest and most wonderful dreams all come true. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.